Okay, we're trying again. If you can hear me, please confirm. See me, hear me, anything. This is very new. Everything's very new, the software. So if anyone could just confirm that you can hear me. Okay, Layla, we got Layla in. Okay, thank you, Layla. That's great to hear. I really apologize for the issues. I'm not sure if it's fixed. I really hope to see some other people like Heidi, just to confirm that everything's okay. So it's just going to be a little bit of a slow start. Okay, Jeju Bada can hear me. You two could hear and see me before, so that's nice, but I'm just going to wait for confirmation. I know there's a couple of other people. Okay, we've got someone else in. That's great to hear. I'd love to get confirmation from Heidi, particularly because I know she had an issue, and if we can get her in, then we are ready to start. Heidi, and then there was Stacy as well. I'm waiting to hear from those two. Heidi, oh, that is a relief. Sorry, Heidi. You were the test to see if this was actually working. The fact that I can see you is great news. Okay, technology. Okay, well, I'm going to get started because I think we are working. There's one more person I'd love to see in the chat as well, and that is Stacy. Yeah, great to see you, Layla. Thank you for joining me. It's good to see some familiar faces. Hopefully we can have a nice Q&A today, and you can catch up with my news and I can catch up with yours. It's good to be back on here. This is a bit of a test. Basically, I'm in my office now. I've moved all of my equipment to my office. And if this works well, then we can do more, and it will be very comfortable. As you can see, the light is very good. The camera's good. Hopefully no more issues. I'd just love to hear from Stacy. If Stacy is in the chat and can confirm, I'll be very relieved. So yeah, Jejubada, long time no live. I've missed it. I do enjoy it, and I hope I can do more. I'm a bit nervous with all of the new setup, but hopefully it's comfortable. So I'm gonna go ahead and well, I'll catch you up with my news first, and then obviously you can ask any questions you want. You can ask any questions you want, or you can tell me your news. It would be great to hear from you. So in terms of my news, I've been very busy indeed. I've had a child called Chloe. So that's been a huge part of my life. She's a wonderful young lady. Now she's 4 months old, so she's growing up very quickly. Layla, your Wi-Fi is too weak. Hopefully that's not an issue from me. I hope there's no issues for everyone else. So if anyone else is having a problem with speed, then please let me know. So yes, I've had a child called Chloe. I've been working very hard in Jack's English, trying to develop a lot of things here. I'm making new courses, and as you can see on my YouTube channel, I have a bit of a different direction, which is I'm doing shadowing. Shadowing is my specialty now. I think this is the best thing I can offer people. I hope everyone can still hear me, by the way. It's gone a little bit quiet. Layla said her Wi-Fi is too weak, so let me know any questions you have that will make me comfortable that you can actually hear me. Layla asks me, what is your plans for New Year? My plans for New Year, to be honest, because of Chloe, I don't have any plans. I suppose just taking care of the baby. Also because of coronavirus, so you can't do much, right? I guess a lot of you are the same. Heidi, I kept an eye on Austria, and I know you had some big issues with coronavirus, same as all the other countries. So my plans for New Year's, probably just stay in with family, maybe a couple of drinks, and take care of young Chloe. How about you all? What are your New Year's plans? Do you have anything special planned? Let me just take my phone across. Okay. What else? So my YouTube channel is going to be a shadowing channel, essentially. I'll occasionally do live Q&As, but the focus will be shadowing and mimicking. So that will be a little bit of topic of conversation today. It's great to see you all here. It's really nice to see you, but I do think there's still some issues because there's a few people that were in the other chat and they haven't come across, which makes me think there is an issue. We'll just go ahead and do it today, and then I'll figure it out later. I'll record today's video, so anyone who missed their question will be able to see the recording. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. I have a big list of questions here. This is what I'm going to be dealing with today. This is from YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So let's just see what Heidi's doing. So she'd be happy to go on holidays to Scandinavia next summer. Yeah, fingers crossed. Depends on the vaccine, right? I think we're all in the same boat. All in the same boat. I would love to go traveling. I'd particularly like to do a Christmas holiday to somewhere like North Japan or something like that. But obviously that's off the cards. Off the cards means not possible, not something I can do. So yes, I think we are all in the same boat. But a vaccine is here. The future is bright. Perhaps next summer we'll be traveling all around the world. I'm really excited. So I tell you what, I'm going to move on to my first question. And this is from a lady who I was hoping would be here. I have a feeling there's been an issue and she hasn't been able to connect to this. But her name is Stacy. And Stacy is a Korean lady who's given me 3 questions. So we're going to go through that. Layla just said her plans are working on transcription method because I want to improve my English. Interesting, Layla. How's that going? Are you having any success? 3 questions from Stacy. Thank you, Stacy. If you're not seeing this live, I'm very sorry. Please check it out in the recording. I'm a big believer that each generation stands on the shoulder of the previous one and goes further and does more. This is a sentence she's given me from an interview and she wants to know the meaning. One more time. I'm a big believer that each generation stands on the shoulders of the previous one and goes further and does more. I think what you are confused with is stand on the shoulders of the previous generation. If you stand on the shoulders of someone or some people, it means that you use them for help or information. In this case, the current generation uses the previous generation. They use their knowledge and they build from there. So yes, the current generation are using the previous generation for help. Layla, I'm sorry to hear that too. That's a shame. I hope the problem is not me. It does seem I need to make some changes. But if anyone else is new in the chat, please say hello and give me your questions. It seems like there's 13 people now, which is great. Stacey's second question is in the following sentence, practice or following pattern, I should say, clause. Practicing social distancing. Practicing social distancing. What does practice mean in this case? Well, it's a good question, right? Because practicing, to practice something, has two meanings. Firstly, it means to do something repeatedly in order to improve, which is the most common way we use practice. I practice golf, I practice tennis. That means I do it repeatedly in order to improve. But it also has another meaning, which means, in this case, practicing social distancing, it simply means to perform something repeatedly. To perform something repeatedly. Obviously, with social distancing, it's not a one-time action. It requires you to do it repeatedly. Okay, so you can use it, and there's some other common cases like common collocations such as practice law, practice a certain method, practice an activity, and that means to do something repeatedly. Good. Question 3 from Stacy. 2 words. She wants to know the pronunciation. The first one is the second month of the year, which is February. February. Now, this is a very difficult one to say. February is confusing because it has the R after the B. February. Now, to make it easier, most people don't pronounce the R. It's Feb-U-Airy. February. February. Okay, so forget the R, forget that R after the B. It's not necessary to say. If you check in the dictionary, you'll see that they actually, in the pronunciation, they show that you don't need to say the R. So that's much easier. February. The other one is environment. Environment. That's also a tricky one because of the N. Environment. We don't say the N. So it's environment. Environment. The stress is on the vi. Environment. Okay. Let's go back to Layla because I've seen I've missed some of her questions. Good idea. What's on? The same thing as if I say what's going on. What's on? It depends on the context. It could be what's on TV. It could be what's on as in what is the kind of schedule, the activity schedule, what's happening. So it really depends on the context. But yes, Layla, it could be what's going on. Yes, it could be. Let's move on. Cure, I'm not going to try and say that, but thank you for joining me. Hanung Al-Aziz from Indonesia, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Neil Webster, my dad, thank you for joining me. And a question. Let's go back to Layla. Do you think if I develop my writing, could I make my sentences correctly during speaking? It depends how you do writing. If you just write, it won't really help with your speaking because when you write, you have a lot more time and you're training yourself to be effective at writing, which is great. And maybe you'll realize some of your issues. But if you only write, then you won't actually train your ability to quickly develop language from your mouth. So what I would recommend is if you do writing practice, try to put 5 or 10 minutes aside at the end where you actually read aloud or somehow practice aloud. I gave some tips about this in a recent video. I can't remember what it was called, but I'll try and let you know later. I'll try and let you know later, but I gave some tips about that. But basically, no, if you just do writing, it's not really going to help your speaking. Try to combine. Okay, Cure says some people are good at reading and writing, but not speaking. Yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right, Cure, and that is exactly what I mean. Interestingly, in Korea, something I've noticed is Koreans love to read and to a certain extent listen, but mostly read. Koreans are very good at reading and their vocabulary is incredible. The speaking, not so much. They have all this vocabulary, but they struggle to produce it. So one thing I tell a lot of my students is that they need to practice actually creating language out of their mouth. So Kyo, good point. You're absolutely right. Heidi, I'm still struggling with little differences between English words. For example, when I should use especially and when I should use particularly. Some questions about if and whether. So, same question about if and whether. Okay, yeah, so especially and particularly, without, off the top of my head, they would be synonyms, and they certainly are synonyms in a lot of cases. Now, when you take specially, that's a little bit different. So particularly and especially, I'm struggling to distinguish between them, to be honest. I'll think about that more and try to give you an answer. But to be honest, they are synonyms. If you were to type in especially, I'm sure maybe the number one synonym in the dictionary would be particularly. And then you said if and whether. Well, again, I'd need a sentence. But for example, if you say... normally whether is used when you're between two choices. So for example, if you say, I don't know whether I'm going to wear red or blue, then you're stuck between two choices. Now, if can be used in the same case, I don't know if I'm going to wear red or blue, but it doesn't emphasize the fact you're between two choices. So that's... Oh, and you can also use whether in a few other cases. I don't know whether you understand, for example. But again, that's between understand or not. So slight difference there. But I know what you mean, Heidi. Some of these are very difficult to distinguish. It's better to learn in context, especially if you could give me a sentence and then I can explain in more detail. Going through all these questions quick as I can. Hannon, thank you very much for that message. That's very nice of you. Jeju Bada, how can I sound more natural? Thank you for the question. I would say, obviously I'm a massive fan of shadowing and mimicking. So if you can find a celebrity or anyone, a teacher, a celebrity, a YouTube personality that you look up to and you like the way they sound, try using them for shadowing or mimicking. Now, in terms of shadowing or mimicking, I'm going to tell you more about that later because I have a question here. But to sound more natural, you've got to be speaking a lot and copying, sort of benchmarking someone who's perfect at speaking or you feel like they are perfect at speaking. Layla, after suffering from that sickness, I can't no longer exercise. Okay, we need to change that. Could you please explain how to use no longer properly in a sentence? No longer means from now you can't do that thing, but make sure you use it with a positive. You can't say I can't no longer. You would say I can no longer exercise, meaning from now I can't exercise. I hope that's enough explanation. Layla, if that's not, let me know. I can give you more examples. Ajit, thank you for joining me. I'm very well. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm very, very well. I'm here in my office, warm, comfortable. I've got a nice setup. So yeah, I'm feeling really positive. Thank you. And then Layla, another question from Layla. Jack came by a few minutes later. Jack came a few minutes later. What is the main difference between them? So to come somewhere, so Jack came here and Jack came by here. To come by somewhere suggests that you are dropping by. I'm not sure if you're familiar with to drop by. But but it doesn't suggest that you're staying for a long time. So that's for me the biggest difference we use to that's why it's used with drop by. It's very commonly drop by. I dropped by the convenience store means I went in there briefly. So yeah, that's the difference there. Cure. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrongly. I'm trying my best. Jack, your accent and teaching are exactly excellent, but I don't know why you are not famous than others. That's very kind of you. I really appreciate that. I hope one day you be the most influential teacher in YouTube. That would be wonderful, and I really appreciate your message. Yeah, that means a lot, and if I am pronouncing your name wrongly, or if you have a nickname, let me know, which I could pronounce a little better. Layla, okay, you're trying. So I can no longer eat junk food. Is it correct? It is absolutely correct, which means from now I can't eat junk food. And then Dad comes in. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I off the top of my head, it's not easy, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But so far, it's okay. Hanan Al-Aziz, do you remember me? I have DM you on Instagram and I tell you that I'm a little bit difficult how to use verb 1, 2, 3. Okay, Hannah, you are on my list. So I believe your name, are you Helen? I believe you are Helen. I've got you written down here. That I've got 3 sentences. So please, Hannah, confirm if you're Helen and then I'll go ahead with your question. It is second on the list. Yeah, thanks, Cure. I really appreciate that. I do hope you give me a thumbs up. It really makes a huge difference to me, actually, because the YouTube algorithm can spread my videos if they see you like. So please do that. Ronald Salcedo, I think, Ronald Salcedo. I like the podcast conversations. I learned expressions and phrases from that. Yeah, Ronald, thank you for your feedback. I loved doing that. If I get the opportunity to do it again, I absolutely will, because I think it's really beneficial for students. I think hearing a natural conversation and then going back and kind of breaking it down is a really effective way of studying. So I will try to do that again in the future. I promise. Okay, I think I'm up to date so far. I'm just waiting for Hannon to confirm, are you Helen? Because then I want to answer your question, because it was a really good question. Layla asks, when someone says, I am really in pretty rough shape, that means I'm very sick. Yeah, just adjust the way you use that. You know, using really and pretty in the same sentence is unnecessary. So you'd say, I'm in pretty rough shape. So you're absolutely right. The pattern is I'm in rough shape. And you can absolutely add pretty to that to emphasize it being an adverb. So yes, pretty rough shape. I'm going to go ahead and assume that Hannon is Helen. I hope I'm right. If I'm wrong, then you can confirm and let me know. Jack, no, it's a different question. Helen asked me this question. What's the difference between I've got the job versus I got the job versus I had got the job? I've got the job, I got the job, I had got the job. Now, hopefully you're with me so far. We have 3 sentences. The first one is present perfect. I've got the job. The second one is past simple. I got the job. The third one is past perfect. I had got the job, or I'd got the job. So thank you for this question. Between I've got the job and I got the job, the first 2, there's not a big difference in how much we use it. I've got the job, the first one, present perfect, emphasizes that I got the job in the past and now I have the job. So probably if you're announcing that news to someone, you could well say, oh, I've got the job, meaning that I have it now. The next one is I got the job, which is equally fine. And that means in the past, you received the news that you got the job. This would be absolutely fine to announce to people, I got the job. So that's the same essentially in this example. Finally, I had got the job. Unlikely to use this so much, but the purpose of this is being past perfect, is that it's the past of the past. Now, what that means is, if I tell a story and I pick that past time, which is I worked in the company, okay? I worked in a company at this time. Then I can go the past of that event and say, I had got the job. So the past perfect's purpose is to show order of past events. So the past of the past. I hope that makes sense. Unlikely to use that, most likely to use the first and second one. Hanung, if that's the answer to your question, let me know. Hopefully that was enough. Let's catch up on this chat because there's lots of things happening. Layla, if I can't go to his party, it's no biggie for me. Thank you for answering my questions. No biggie. What is the difference between no biggie and no biggie? Well, firstly, no biggie is very informal. It's very informal and it means no big deal. In terms of the spelling, I'm aware that it's B-I-G-G-I-E as you've written there. I don't know if you can spell it with the Y. Perhaps you can, but as I said, it's informal, so you're less likely to write it. In terms of the difference in the meaning, no difference. Okay, so I don't know without checking, but I'd probably say with the IE on the end. Layla, okay, now, Cure. My name is Joe. Okay, Joe, I'm going to call you Joe. I'm going to put you down here so I don't make a mistake. Joe, we do live stream afterwards. Hopefully, this will let us keep in touch. Joe, I intend to. It depends on the success of today's live stream. A few issues today, but hopefully everything will be okay. And I will do more live streams in the future. Hannon, can you just confirm to me that you're Helen? Because I'm a bit confused if I'm talking to the right person. So, Hannon, if you confirm to me you are Helen, then I will explain more and hopefully make that a bit clearer for you. Let's move on to Heidi while I'm waiting. Stacey, good to see you. Sorry for the issue earlier. Hopefully no issue now, but it's a real relief to see you in the chat. that means that something has fixed. So, Stacey, I'll come to your question in a moment. You are next on the list. Oh no, I did you. Stacey, I did you. Okay, I'll give you a quick summary in a moment. Just to let you know, Stacey, I answered your question around about the 10th minute of this live lesson. Okay, Heidi, I often struggle with for me and to me. Is there a general rule for the correct use? Is it it's important to me or it's important for me, correct? Yeah, that's a really tough one to answer, Heidi. Your questions are very hard. The reason it's tough is the difference between 2 and 4, okay? So that's a huge answer to distinguish between 2 and 4. Those prepositions often get mixed up or they can be used in the same case. Now, I'll tell you about your answer or your example sentences particularly. It's important to me or it's important for me. Normally it's important to me basically they mean the same thing. Okay, they are interchangeable. But it's important to me is usually used when you talk about something that aligns with what you want or your morals or something like that. So it's very personal to you. Okay, so if you say it's important to me, for example, being on time, so punctuality is very important to me. That means it's important personally. Personally, I find it very important. Now, it's important for me. Doesn't necessarily that it's mean that it's a personal thing. For example, it's important for me to take care of my daughter. Now, that's interchangeable, right? Because of course it's important to me as well. It's my personal belief, but it's important for me to do something. It's important generally, and I'm required to do that as a parent. So I think that answers your question, but there's a lot more to say about that, and perhaps that's a future lesson for me, is to do 2 versus 4. That would be a huge lesson. Okay, I'll move on, and Heidi, hopefully that clears it up a little. Okay, Layla, thanks for joining me. It's great to see you. Sorry about your internet. Hopefully next time we can have a smooth conversation. Rohan, hi Jack, your videos are amazing. Thank you very much, Rohan. That means a lot. Where are you from, Rohan? Are you from India? I'd love to hear where you're from. So I think I'm all caught up. Obviously, we have Stacy. Stacy, I answered your question earlier, but just briefly, your first question was the big quote, and you talked about one generation being on the shoulders of another generation. To be on the shoulders of another generation means you use them for help. They are the base, and you can use their knowledge in order to improve in the future. So that's number 1. Number 2, practice has 2 meanings. Now, normally, as you're familiar with, practice means to do something repeatedly to improve. In this case, when we say practice social distancing, it doesn't mean to improve, it just means do something regularly. So we don't do social distancing once, we do it repeatedly. So practice social distancing. Finally, the pronunciation of February. Now, February, forget about the R. We don't say February. You can do, but most people just say February. Number 2 was environment. Again, there's a silent N. Environment. Don't say the N. Environment. Stress the Vi. Okay, caught up. Rohan from India, welcome. Thank you for joining me. It's great to see new people. And you are welcome, Heidi. Let's go to a different question. Now, let's see. I had a question. Let's pick this one from Lucy. I had a question from Lucy. I like your new series using Notting Hill. Is it okay to use a male actor for shadowing, even though I'm a woman? Now, I'm very keen about shadowing and mimicking. We'll talk more about that a little later. And she's asking, if you're a woman, can you use a male actor for shadowing or mimicking? Yes, you can, but I don't advise it. If you're going to mimic or shadow, it's best to pick the ideal voice for you. That's my best advice. If you want to be a posh English lady, pick, who could we pick? Hermione, what's her name? Someone help me in the chat, Hermione. I'm so bad with names, but Keira Knightley, she's another one. If you want to sound posh and British, pick Keira Knightley. Now, Emma Watson, well done, Chechibada. Oh, I'm so bad with names. Pick the person you want to be. men and women have different intonation, and particularly women tend to have stronger intonation. If you listen to Keira Knightley and listen to her in a conversation, you'll hear that she has stronger intonation than a man generally. So if you're a woman, I recommend use a woman. If you're a man, use a man. But you can do what you want to do. Don't, it's not fixed. It's not a rule. It's my recommendation. So thanks for that question, Lucy. And let me have some water. Obviously, for everyone who's watching, give me any questions in the chat and I will answer, or I'll try to answer. I can't always answer. If there are none, which there are not at the moment, let me answer another question here. So let's just do another one about shadowing and mimicking. Now, this question comes from Melissa, and she asks, what's the difference between shadowing and mimicking? I think this is because I use shadowing and mimicking a lot on my channel. So what's the difference? So good question, and something I should definitely cover. So let's talk about that. Shadowing is where you listen to, so you listen to the content, right? So let's say you listen to a sentence. Shadowing means you talk over the content. So you listen to the sentence, you talk over it as closely as you can with a slight delay. Now, I can't demonstrate to you, but you talk at the same time as the sentence. Mimicking is you listen to the sentence, pause, repeat as closely as you can. Listen to the sentence, pause, repeat as closely as you can. Both are fine. Shadowing is very popular. Personally, although I talk a lot about shadowing, I really prefer mimicking. I prefer to listen closely, pause, and then repeat as closely as I can. As a bonus, I recommend that you record yourself doing it so that you can compare the recording of the person, the native speaker, and your own recording. So that's a kind of extra thing you can do. But I'm a fan of mimicking. Both are fine. Thank you, Melissa, for that question. I hope that's clear. Got some comments here. Shika, sorry if I'm saying that wrongly, but Shika, I'll say Shika. Thanks, Jack, for making this type of amazing videos, and England is my favorite country. I'm 15 and this is my dad's phone. And I promise when I grow up, when I will come to England, I will meet you. Okay, thank you, Shika. That's a lovely comment. I don't live in England now, but in a few years, I will move back to England, and I hope to see you then. Rohan, can you suggest any novel for beginners? Good question. For beginners, now I often recommend to my students who are kind of intermediate, and I say things like Animal Farm is a reasonable one, and what's it called? Lord of the Flies is not bad, but that's kind of intermediate to advanced. In terms of a beginner, I used to read Dick King-Smith. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Dick King-Smith. So it's Dick, D-I-C-K, King, K-I-N-G, Smith, S-M-I-T-H. That's a reasonable place to start, but even that would probably be a kind of low intermediate. I'm not sure your level, Rohan, but I tell you another one which I've had real success with. I think it's got some really wonderful language, and that's Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I'm not really familiar with this series. I didn't read it when I was young or anything, but when I saw Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I thought this is really, really good. It's a really good way to learn English because it's diary form, so it's written in the past tense, and it's reasonably simple. So I don't know if I can write in this chat. Oh no, I can't. Okay. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. If anyone knows that, if you could just write it in the chat, that would be great help, because I can't connect to the chat to write. I'll figure that out for next time. But really good. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Thanks for your question, Rohan. Layla, I'm back. Just be careful, Layla. I got back or I am back. Both are fine, but not a combination. But welcome back anyway. It's good to see you again. Any questions? Let me know. And if you're new here, say hello. If not, I'm going to go to another question I have here. So we've done Stacey, Helen, Melissa, Lucy. We've got 2 more here. Now, let's go with Farida. Now, Farida, she seems to be a new subscriber on YouTube, and she asked me a question in my newest video. I hope you enjoyed that, by the way. It's a new style. She said, I want to learn grammar as soon as possible. How long does it take? How can I do it quickly? Okay, I've slightly paraphrased that question, but thank you for the question, Farida, because it's a very difficult question, but it is important to address it. Firstly, learning English grammar think of it as endless. It has no end to it. It's just, oh, thanks, Heidi. That's great. Thank you. Learning English grammar is an ongoing thing. Now, as Heidi asked me that question earlier about 4 and 2, there are differences in 4 and 2 that even I still learn about. And there are, tricky areas of grammar that I still learn about nowadays. So it's endless. Just think of it as endless. But if you want enough grammar for conversation, you want a basic level of grammar to communicate well, then what I recommend is to use something like Grammar in Use by Cambridge, because that will give you an idea of the grammar required at a level. So if you're a beginner, get Grammar in Use Beginner, learn it, and then you have enough grammar to communicate at that kind of beginner level. Now, I do the same. I don't know if you can see my textbook here, beginner, intermediate, advanced. I designed these to teach enough grammar for that level. Now, each book takes about 3 months with me. I don't sell it, so I'm sorry, I don't sell it online yet, but my answer to your question is it takes roughly 3 months of hard work to really build a base of grammar at some level. I think that's the best answer I can give you, Farida. So Heidi, thank you for confirming Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And I think either you or Luke once recommended Wonder by Raquel J. Palacio. It was extremely nice, even though it was a book for teenagers. Okay, that must have been Luke, Heidi. I don't recommend that, but and I'm not aware of it. But there's so many great books, so I'm sure that's a good one. Check out Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but it depends on your level. Heidi, maybe it would be a little bit easy for you. Shika, please make one pronunciation video on the actor Tom Holland. Good idea. I tell you what, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'm starting to move into using shadowing, using celebrities and dramas and movies. So I will write that down now and keep that in mind for the future. Tom Holland pronunciation. Thank you for the suggestion. Anyone else, if you have suggestions, let me know. I do write them down. I do consider them. I can't promise a video, but I do my best. Layla, sometimes my father gives me advice. He says, you reap what you sow. Which case could I use the last expression? You reap what you sow. This is an idiom meaning you get the effect from what you do. I mean, I don't know whether that's a good way of translating it, but basically, if you do something bad, then bad things will probably happen to you. Sorry. If you do something good, good things will come back to you. And obviously, it comes from if you sow certain seeds, then you get the plant that's associated with the seeds. So you reap what you sow is a very useful idiom, meaning you get what you put out there, essentially. Okay, I'm caught up. Now, I've got one more question here, so let's deal with that. And we can kind of start to wrap up, I think. So my last question is from Rebecca. I got this. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Rebecca messaged me through Instagram, and she asked, how can we give a command such as sit down politely? Now, actually, this is a really long. It requires a long answer, but I'll try to give it to you as simply as possible. One more time. How can we give a command such as sit down politely? There are so many polite expressions, polite patterns, etc. So it really depends on the context. But let me give you maybe 3 that could be used instead of sit down. Now, if you say sit down very directly, you're not necessarily trying to be friendly, but you're trying to be polite. Instead of say sit down, say, would you sit down? It's a question. Would you sit down? So this is a direct but polite way of saying it. By the way, never give commands in polite English. It's just not polite to give a command. That applies to emails, in business. It's very important. Now, in another case, you could, instead of sit down, if you're trying to be really friendly and polite, you could say, would you like to? Would you like to sit down? Now, would you like to is a polite way of saying, do you want to? Do you want to? Would you like to? But would you like to is also used when you kind of want someone to do something. Oh, would you like to sit down? And it gives them the option, but obviously they will sit down. So what have I said so far? Would you sit down? Would you like to sit down? And then another way, which is, I suppose it's similar to a command, but it's more of a favor, is of course, could you? Or would you mind verbing? So could you sit down? I could imagine me saying that as a teacher. If I want my students to sit down, I don't say sit down. I ask them the favor. Could you sit down? Could you take a seat? Because that's a polite way of doing it. I think that's enough answer. That wasn't quite as hard as I was expecting. Heidi, you reap what you sow. Is it a common idiom in the UK? Yes, it is. I would say yes, it is. It's highly contextual. I mean, it's very dependent on the conversation, and you're not going to go around saying you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. But you are, if there's the situation where someone has perhaps done something bad, and then they get the karma, as some people say, they get the bad effect, then you would say, well, you reap what you sow. So yes, Heidi, it is, but it depends on the conversation. Another question from Layla, and then I think we will wrap up because I think we've done enough for today. So they would have stopped anyone else. Your luck is unbelievable. What's the additional meaning that would gives us in this sentence? They would have stopped anyone else. Okay, the answer to this is very long, but because we have to talk about the use of would and using it in the imagined case. But I'll try to give you a brief answer so that you understand. They would have stopped anyone else means, and I don't know what the context is, but it means if they had faced someone else, which they didn't. But if they had, in that imagined case, then they would have stopped anyone else. So when you imagine another case and it's not reality, we use would instead of will, or normally instead of will. Ajit, Jack, how can I organize ideas while speaking? I'm struggling with it. Yeah, Ajit, what I would say to you is you really need to, there's no way, there's no method to just, in conversation, organize your ideas. We can talk about ways of calming down and anxiety and things like that, but there's no way to just, organize my ideas. But what you can do is speak a lot in your free time, in your study time. For example, doing a verbal diary, recording yourself, practicing speaking as much as possible. You don't need to do it with someone. You can do it alone. And then naturally, you'll become more comfortable with English, and you will naturally organize your thoughts better. Thanks for the question, Ajit. Okay, one more question and then I am done. I am out of here because I have another lesson and I'm in my office, so I will be teaching more this evening. Layla, your final question is, where were you earlier? B, nature's call. I see, so this is a kind of a conversation. Where were you earlier? Nature's call. When someone says that, does it mean I was at the bathroom? Yes, Layla, it means nature's call is I needed to go to the bathroom. Nature's call means I had that signal from my body that I needed to go to the bathroom. So it's kind of a informal and fun way of saying go to the bathroom. Okay, I need to give my voice a rest. That was a lot of chatting during the last hour. Thank you so much to everyone who joined. I apologize for the issues early on. I still think there are some improvements to be made. It was a little bit different to normal, but thanks everyone who joined. I hope I answered all of your questions, and I will do this again in the future. So keep your questions and wait for me to announce on Instagram I'll be doing this. So thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay safe in this issue with coronavirus. I think we're starting to get maybe to the final part of coronavirus, if you will. I truly hope so. But anyway, stay safe and see you very soon. Okay, bye-bye everyone.